Back to Gaelic Games Fan TV. We are here to preview the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship Final. The All-Ireland Final is officially here, and by God, what a game we have in store this weekend. Cork versus Tipperary. As you can see, I'm repping the Tipperary jersey. Do have relatives from Tipperary, and not many people will know this, but my great uncle was the great Jimmy Doyle, the great and late Jimmy Doyle, which never actually mentioned on this show before, but there we go. Some fresh news there for people to dig themselves into. So do you know what? I'll be repping Tipperary. Obviously Matthew, of course, will be repping the great Cork. There's no doubt about that. And cheers for Matthew for coming on the show. Matthew, are you nervous about Sunday?
Yeah, getting a bit nervous now, Aaron. Yeah, thanks for having me on again. It's going to be very, very difficult on Sunday. Like, Tipp are going to be a very, very good team. Cork would be favourites, obviously, but I think it'll be way tighter than the Munster Championship game between the two sides. It should be a very, very entertaining game more than anything else as well. I think the main story cropping around social media is the ticket situation and all of that. And like, there are many aspects to this game, including the forward lines, including matchups and stuff like that. And there's a few interviews going around as well, including I seen off the ball earlier, went down to actual Killa and the club in Killa to discuss the song and everything like that, and everything in hurling in Cork. And even on the Southern Star podcast, which I do present, a bit of shameless plug there, we had a guest on, Dermot the Rock O'Sullivan, this week. So be sure to watch that this week. It is a very, very good episode. And he's obviously a great guy to come on and discuss the game, and obviously he was part of the last party to win the All-Ireland in 2005. So look, it should be a brilliant game, but then again, Aaron, it's dominated really by the ticket scandal and things like that over social media, and a lot of people have different opinions. Seamus was saying on my show last night there should be 72,000 at least between the two sides, and I probably tend to agree with him as well. Yeah. Like, there's people in Cork and Tipperary scrambling for tickets, and there's one guy in Cavan who gets 10. I mean, it's horrendous stuff really for an All-Ireland final, and they're not going to fix it this year, obviously. We're 3 days out from the final, but hopefully they will fix it for next year, because it's gone beyond the joke at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it seems to be every year, like with these with All-Ireland finals, that you see these different draws. Like, I remember there was one draw, was it a couple of years ago? To be fair, I don't think it was anything got to do with the All-Ireland final, but I think it was just a club lotto or something like that. And I remember there was I don't know what club it was in now, what part of the country, but I don't know if you remember, he picked the name out of the hat and then just kind of, I think it might have been Roscommon or Mayo or something like that, and he just kind of slipped the name back in and did it again. Yeah, no, but I agree with you as well. Like, especially with there being so much demand, and look, it's going to be the same next week for Donegal Kerry. So, like, so much demand, so much anticipation, from both Cork and Tipperary fans. You've got, all these club draws happening. We don't seem to know. Like, the problem is with these draws, they're not done live, so like nobody actually sees the draws happen. Do you know what I mean? As far as I know, maybe I might be wrong. Maybe some clubs do it live or something, or do it in the club. I don't really know, but yeah, as you said, like, to have 10 tickets going to one person is bizarre. And it's very, especially for people like you and Tipperary fans and other Cork fans out there that can't get tickets. You know what I mean? It's a massive it's really annoying. Like,
really annoying. I've got a load of texts from my friends and from colleagues and things like that, genuinely looking for tickets. They are on the scramble hunt. Like, a lot of my family members and stuff like that as well, people I work with as well, is entering raffle ticket draws. Like, some of the raffles aren't even done by tonight. Like, they aren't even done by this time, which is what, 10 to 9 tonight? Like, and how are you going to prepare for the weekend if raffles aren't done by this stage? I mean, it's gone. Like, I think something needs to be done about this, Aaron, in terms of that as well. And you see this stuff going on during the week as well, of treasurers and players and captains, and not necessarily players, but captains and managers and chairpersons. They all get tickets, and then the normal folk who go to every single game don't get tickets, and it's just, I mean, it's very bad form, in fairness, and I mean, something needs to be done about. And like, I've seen some even fights on Twitter. I seen some Mayo fan was piping up and saying to them, "Oh, I'd love to go to this game, but Cork and Tipperary, it is their day." But then a lot of people went after that fan And that fan, to be fair, I don't think wants to cause any harm. But it's gone beyond the stage now where I think fans are becoming almost like zombies on X and social media and things like that. They are desperate. And rightly so, they are desperate for tickets. They're scrambling for tickets now. But ultimately, that falls in the hands of the GA. The way they're distributing tickets. Like Daniel Hussey put up a great tweet 2 weeks ago, just after the All-Ireland semi-finals in hurling, saying where the tickets actually go. And I read it was 59,000 or so between the two counties. I mean, for an All-Ireland final, I don't think that's enough. I genuinely don't think so. Yes, there are media and TV that's separate and stuff like that. And yes, some of the media are, for Cork, and you say the Echo, the Southern Star, for Tipperary, the Need Guardian, Tipperary Live. That's fine, to be fair, because you get media people going to the ground in that way as well. But you get some tickets with like past presidents. I mean, nearly 1,000 there. I mean, it's just, I don't know what is going on in terms of the allocation there. Yes, there's some I do agree with, like residents around the Croke Park area get a certain amount of tickets. I do agree with that, because on All-Ireland final day, it can get stressful for those kind of living there, the residents. I do get that, but some of them, I just don't, honestly, Aaron. And something needs to be done with the GA next year, in my opinion, in terms of All-Ireland finals and stuff like that. It's becoming more like, in the Champions League final, I remember distinctly, I don't know why distinctly this final, because it happens every final in the Champions League, but in Kiev, between Real Madrid and Liverpool, I remember 2018, you had the white down one end, the red down the other, and then all corporate people around the middle. And it was just soulless around the ground. Like, I think the GA is going down that rabbit hole as well, which is a very, very dangerous precedent. So maybe something needs to be done about the allocation of tickets next year, but it's obviously not going to be done this year, and it's a huge shame.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is a disgrace, like, and it's so unfair on die-hard supporters that are going to the games. Peter says here, even the lads, the man in Cavan winning 10 is a pure joke more than taking the mick there. Yeah, absolutely. Like, just yeah, like, and the mad thing is as well, like, it was tweeted out from Cavan's official Twitter page. They didn't even like, surely someone, I don't know who controls the Twitter page, right? You don't know who handles the Twitter. It could be a young lad or something. I don't know. But like, the fact that they thought it was a good idea to actually tweet that, do you know what I mean? Now, I know, like, it's probably better for us to know than not know. But yeah, like, to actually put that out there onto the internet is just, it's absolutely mental. Sean says, do you think it's a bit unfair that tickets for the All-Ireland final are so limited to clubs? I remember for last year's football final, I knew a lot of Armagh fans who were die-hard who couldn't go. And Peter says here, Seamus made an excellent point last night about a merit system to show you've gone to matches during the season, not to have bandwagoners jumping on for the final. Absolutely, yeah. No, I'd agree with that. And I know, like, I wouldn't be, like, I'm a Liverpool fan in the Premier League. I wouldn't be a season ticket holder, obviously, because that's a very, very hard thing to get. But I know people who are. Now, when it comes to the Champions League final and those big games, I think it's a little bit different. But I know, like, it does depend on, like, you can go to certain cup games. The more games you've gone to, you build up, like, credits. The more kind of games you go to. And then for cup finals and stuff, you have more chance of being in the ballot and kind of things like that. So I definitely think it's something they should look at in regards to what Peter says. Shocking system, scammers cash it in as well. And it's just
that's the thing.
And the problem is, you've so many of them on Twitter. And even I remember last year, or not even 2 years ago, I think, when I was trying to get tickets for the Dublin Kerry game, the final. Like, I ended up getting a ticket in the end, but there was one or two people there that nearly got me. Like, they nearly scammed me, like these kind of bots and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's an absolute minefield out there.
It is, yeah. And that's even more dangerous. Surely the GA have to cop onto that as well. That people are that desperate to go in and touch some dodgy links. Like, surely that is an indication to say that you kind of need to change up your ticket allocation here, because fans are getting desperate. And Seamus, again, with the credit system and things like that as well. Like, I genuinely seen some Cork people that I knew and things like that actually, I don't think, went to the semi-final and didn't go to football games throughout the whole season as well. Like, I will admit, I am I went to the All-Ireland semi-final in the hurling, and I went to a league game in the hurling. But in the football, I went to every single game this year. Every single game. Including up in Newry, including up in Kingspan Breffni against Cavan, including up in Enniskeane against Monaghan, including up in Navan against Meath in the All-Ireland group stage. So those fans kind of deserve their day out in the sun as well, when you think about it. So it's just, I mean, it is a minefield, and I absolutely feel sympathy for the Cork supporters that have gone to every single game in the hurling, that have been down the park, been to Ennis to support the Cork hurlers against Clare in a small, tiny little ground. And all the Cork supporters, and for all the Cork supporters that went to every single game after that as well, and not to get a ticket for the final, there's something seriously wrong there, Aaron. And I think something needs to be done, including a credit system, I think, honestly. We'll see if the GA does change next season. But yeah, it is a minefield out there, but we'll see who gets the tickets, who's going to be lucky enough and who is not going to be lucky enough. But I mean, it's a joke at some stage. Look, I know genuine Cork supporters that have been to every single game, whether it's either football or hurling, and they can't get a ticket for either clubs or county board, things like that, and that is a disgrace. It's a genuine disgrace, Aaron, and something needs to be done next season. It won't be done this year, obviously. It just annoys me. I think it annoys not just me, but I think it annoys everybody across the country, including people in Cork and Tipp, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt did say here, Ross Cray GEA done it using an online name picker and uploaded the video. That's how it should be done by everyone. It's a joke to see some of the things going on. Absolutely, yeah. Like the full transparency there. It is kind of mental that you do have so many clubs and even counties as well that aren't doing that. But look, hopefully for any Cork fans, Tipperary fans watching, you do get sorted, and definitely be careful out there with some of the different scams that are going around. In terms of the game itself, like we're obviously a couple of days away. What's the, aside from the whole ticket craziness and everything else, what's the buzz like around Cork? What's the anticipation like? Because look, I mean, you're massive favourites. There's no doubt about that. I know Pat Ryan will obviously try and play it down, and maybe you might try to play it down. Other people might try to play it down. Look, I don't think it's nailed on. I certainly wouldn't want to be that fella who got the tattoo of Cork All-Ireland Hurling Champions 2025. I'm not too sure if you saw that. I certainly wouldn't go as far as that now. But look, Cork are favourites. There's no question. But what's the buzz been like around the county?
Everywhere, even around West Cork, where I do work. But just for context here, Aaron, there's only one Carberry is the name of the division in West Cork. There's only one hurler in the Cork hurling panel in the Carberry division. That's Luke Mead, who's a bench player. The rest of the counties, mostly Emo Kelly players or City players. And you could see, like I walk around where I work in Skibbereen in Southern Star, and I see flags around Skibbereen. There's flags around. Like there was one fella today that I passed walking genuinely, selling flags in the street. Cork flags, like it's just mad around the place. It really, really is. I'm sure it's the same in Tipperary as well. I've seen videos from off the ball in Killa where the big up Cork thing is up. I'm not sure to see that Aaron around online. Like it is all around the place, all around the place. It's painted red, the whole county. Even clubs that are different colours, like Killa, for example, green and white, Sarsfield blue, Clonakilty green and red, or whatever. Every place around Cork is now red, and the county's painted. And it's just a lot of people have belief in this team because of the way they're winning games as well. The way they won the Dublin game was just scintillating hurling. The way they won even the games against Limerick last season was absolutely brilliant. The way they won the Munster title, the way they won the league title, there was a lot of hope and hype around this team. But I will say as well, Tipperary, there's a lot of hope as well. And Tipperary is more, like Cork probably would have expected to be at this stage, with the greatest of respect. But for Tipperary to be here after finishing last in Munster last season, at the start of the championship season, a lot of people were saying after the Darren McCarthy red card and that capitulation more so against Cork, lose by 15 points down to the red card more so. But a lot of people were commenting saying, is this the Liam Cahill curse? Is Tipperary going to fall off a cliff here? But ever since that game against Cork, they've improved time and time again. And this is a very, very dangerous opponent for Cork. There's a lot of hope around Tipperary, a lot of hope around Cork as well. It's the first ever final between these two counties, which is another kind of battle going to this final. So it is going to be very, very interesting. And I'd say most neutral cannot wait for this final because of the uniqueness of it, and considering it is a Munster derby as well. As two counties, I would say in Munster, really the only two counties I think, the matchup really, they actually respect each other. Like we respect Tipp probably respect us as well. It's going to be an absolutely brilliant game of hurling, and obviously may the best team win. Obviously I will be disappointed if Cork do lose the game, but then I'll say, look, fair play to Tipperary because their journey has been absolutely outstanding this season. But we have to see on Sunday, it's going to be an absolutely enthralling encounter.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sean says here, I was watching the Irish Indo pod with Eddie Brennan and John Milan. They both agree that Tipp couldn't make it a shootout against Cork. And he said something else there. I disagree and think Tipp have more than enough firepower. Yeah, I listened to that podcast as well. To be fair, great pod by the way. It's. I do get, to be fair, the point that they're making. I think it's more so to stop the goals, because we know how deadly Cork are in terms of goals. We know what they've done to Dublin. Look, they scored 4 against Tipperary, 4 goals, and they score against Tipperary in the Munster Championship already this year. The influence they have at goals, the amount of goals that they can score, the way they can cut through teams with ease, and to be fair, like they can. Like they scored 7 goals against Dublin, but they probably could have got 8 or 9. They probably could have even got 10 goals. Do you know what I mean? Like there was probably moments in that game where they took their foot off the gas. And I think the point that John Milan was making was that Tipperary would sort of flood, their own 30-meter line, their own 20 line, just with bodies really to try and stop Cork kind of run through. Where do you stand with that? Like, do you think Tipperary, like, is that Tipperary maybe kind of looking at it and focusing too much on Cork and maybe restricting themselves? Because as Sean has said as well, like, look, if it's a shootout, maybe you would fancy Cork to win. But at the same time, Tipperary have got very, very good players, and they have players for the big occasion as well, the likes of John McGrath and whatnot. So, and we know Darragh McCarthy can turn up, Andy Ormond, you got Donoghue, who maybe comes off the bench, maybe even starts. So, Tipperary have their threats there as well.
Yeah, exactly. They have some brilliant attackers, and even epitomised by that Jason Ford, 80% accuracy throughout the whole campaign. And he was absolutely brilliant form against Kilkenny and Galway, hitting 100% accuracy in both of those games. Darragh McCarthy, when he's keeping his cool, is a very, very good player. John McGrath is an excellent goal scorer as well and has 2 All-Ireland medals in his back pocket. Jane Morris has an All-Ireland in his back pocket and is performing brilliantly. Jason Ford, we had as well, 2 All-Irelands in his back pocket as well. Andy Ormond's been one of the finds of the year for Tipperary. I think around midfield, Willie Connors has the potential to perform excellent in an All-Ireland final. Ronan Mark, the experience that he has in this Tipperary team. Rhys Shelley has been brilliant in the puck-outs in Tipperary. And even look at the average stats that I put up on my Instagram during the week. They're very, very similar in statistics, Cork and Tipperary. I think the team that kind of edges it for Cork, they win kind of more opposition puck-outs than Tipperary. But then again, Tipperary's shooting accuracy seems to be a lot better than Cork's. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see that dynamic. I know there is the argument, Tipp did play Laois and they got over 70% in that game. And yes, Laois aren't up to the level. I'm well aware of that. But at the same time, that is a good precedent to keep getting good shooting accuracies and things like that before going to a titanic battle against Cork. And what impresses me about Tipperary, more so than the forwards more than anything, when you look at their defence, after the Clare game where they conceded 2 goals in Ennis, they have conceded 3 goals ever since. They conceded 1 goal against Waterford, none against Laois, 2 against Galway, and one of those, the last goal against Galway was when the game was up, really. No goals against Kilkenny. And against Kilkenny, added on to that, only 2 goal chances given to Kilkenny. And one of those was John Donnelly blocked by Robert Doyle in the very last seconds of the game. Tipperary are improving defensively. I think they learned a lot from that Cork game. Like, funnily enough, The Rock did say to me in the Star Sport podcast this week that the turning point for Cork season was the game against Limerick in the Gaelic grounds. In the Gaelic grounds in the round robin stage where we got absolutely battered. And we kind of had to change our tactics, and we kind of improved ever since then. And we can't keep saying, oh, we're league champions. We have a lot of hype around us. We have to prove that we do have the hype. And they have done ever since. But the thing is with Tipperary, the turning point of their season was the game against Cork. Because ever since conceding them 4 goals, they have been rock solid defensively. And that cannot go unnoticed going into this weekend either. So it's going to be a titanic battle. And when you look at the stats and you look at the Tipp's attack and Tipp's defence as well, ever since the Cork game, it's a dangerous opponent on Sunday.
Yeah, Michael says here, I think Tipp will score 3 or 4 goals. Sean says last year it was a shootout, which Cork were matched in and just lost. And Peter says, lads, weather's looking really bad too. A very wet scuttery ball could be costly. That's an interesting point as well. Like it is, I think it's meant to be thunderstorms and everything else, and the weather is meant to be a very bad day, unfortunately. So I mean that could have a big kind of influence on the game as well. And I'm not too sure who that suits more. Like I feel like with it being pristine conditions and everything else, it might suit Cork more. We saw how well they obviously played it against Dublin in those conditions. But yeah, how much of an influence do you think that could have on the game?
I think actually that it could actually suit Tipp more than Cork. Because Cork usually play very, very well in pristine conditions. Tipp were very used to the wet conditions against Kilkenny in the semi-final as well. So, funny enough, I did look at the weather during the week, and apparently Sunday is the best out of a bad bunch of days. I could be wrong now. Peter makes a great point. Lark Harbour had the rain. I remember that day. That was an absolutely brilliant performance by Tipp, and Noel McGrath was around. They obviously scored a goal in that All-Ireland final. So yeah, I feel like Tipp usually perform better in risky weather conditions. I do think so. Yeah. So I think it'll honestly suit Tipp more than Cork. But again, we'll have to see. Then again, it is the Irish weather. It could be raining 1 minute and then it could be sunny the next. It's that kind of country. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see the weather conditions as well. So yeah, if it is thunderstorms though, that's a big advantage to Tipp, because I think they are more used to those kind of conditions than Cork are. Because you look at the championship games even this season, they played in treacherous conditions against Laois in Port I was actually there in Port that day because Cork footballers were playing Roscommon. That was horrendous conditions. I know they won the game comfortably, but they still have maybe experience of playing in those conditions. Against Kilkenny, it was raining for most parts of the game. Looking at other games against Limerick, the first day out, very bad conditions that day in Semple Stadium, Thurles. And then you look at Cork's games. The 2 Limerick games were pristine conditions. The game against Clare, pristine conditions. Tipp, pristine conditions. Waterford, windy, but sunny at the same time. And against Dublin, not a drop of rain. So they're proof that I think Tipp will be more used to the slippery and underfoot and risky conditions than Cork would. It's a dangerous kind of game there.
Yeah, absolutely. Gaelic Guy says, I expect Cork to end the drought, but I think it will be extremely tight, possibly extra time. But I'm going to back Cork by the narrowest. Cork 126 at 319 to Tipperary. Michael was saying here, when are the teams named? Probably tomorrow, you'd imagine. Maybe tonight, possibly. But we probably would have gotten an announcement by now. Peter says players' footwear selection is going to be a massive, massive factor as well. Well, what we'll do next is I'm going to just get an L tactics board out here for everyone to take a look. So we're going to just have a look at the teams in terms of who might potentially start. Now, I've just gone with the starting 15 that Cork played versus Dublin, and Tipperary starting 15 versus Kilkenny in the last game. But in terms of a lineup for Cork, like in terms of the starting 15 that they played against Dublin, do you expect there to be any changes, or do you think it will be the same starting 15?
I think it might be the same. The rumour mill during the week is Seamus Hartney is not fully fit, even for the bench. So I think Dudzy Healy does start. Midfield, I think, will be about the same, other than the fact that Seamus mentioned it last night. Darragh Fitzgibbon might move into centre forward. But then again, do you put Barrett at the midfield? But then again, The Rock did say on the podcast, on Star Sport podcast during the week, that Barrett usually is very, very good at organising during puckouts. So he might start at the midfield. I don't know, but I think I'd be safe to say I think Fitzgibbon might go into midfield. Look at the matchups there. The matchups might be different. I think Sean O'Donoghue, there's rumours that he will go on Darragh McCarthy. I think he will. But the main thing from the Tipperary point of view, Aaron, Darragh McCarthy has to be on his best behaviour this time. He cannot be goaded into anything for John O'Donoghue. He was down in the park. He can't be this Sunday. He has to stay cool. First 5 minutes, no matter what Sean O'Donoghue is saying to him, he needs to stay cool. Ignore him. That's what he needs to do in terms of all that, in my opinion. Look at the others as well. John McGrath going on Downey. Like, it's an interesting one. Would Owen Downey go on Jason, or actually Niall O'Leary and Jason Ford? I think Niall O'Leary probably will go on Jason Ford. But in my honest opinion, from a Cork standpoint, I would rather Sean O'Donoghue go on Jason Ford. Because I think Jason Ford has been really, really dangerous this year. Sean O'Donoghue has been our best performing defender, arguably up for an All-Star. Some may even hurler of the year. Some may even go that far. So, in my opinion there, I switch O'Donoghue and O'Leary. And I put O'Leary on McCarthy and O'Donoghue on Ford. I would personally. I don't think Pat Ryan would do that. But that would be my kind of opinion on that personally. Look at half forward line then. Sam O'Farrell. I don't think Kieran Joyce will go on Sam O'Farrell personally. Because Kieran Joyce went on Cian Lynch in the Munster final. And we all know what happened there. Cian Lynch was shotless. Not just scoreless, shotless. Cian Lynch in a breath of air in that game. So who would you put Kieran Joyce on? That is a very, very difficult dilemma here.
Yeah.
Maybe Jake Morris.
Yeah, maybe Jake Morris. Yeah, no, I've just put in the teams as they were named, and then we'll kind of run through it. But yeah, maybe Jake Morris. Yeah, it's interesting though one because Kieran Joyce obviously does love to get forward. Could that leave a bit of space maybe potentially for Jake Morris? That'd be interesting to see. Would you leave Rob Downey on Andy Ormond, and then maybe Mark Coleman on Sam O'Farrell, or what would you be reckoning there?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. It really is. I think Sam O'Farrell mostly plays around the middle rather than half forward. He's a very... Seamus had a very good comparison with Sam O'Farrell on my show last night, saying that he's very like Dan McCormack. He doesn't score that much, but he is very, very good at retaining the ball and winning puckouts and things like that around the middle, doing the donkey work more so. So I think Sam O'Farrell won't go on Kieran Joyce. I think Mark Coleman's actually a perfect matchup for Sam O'Farrell because Mark Coleman usually likes to drift forward as well, and Sam would have no issue in tracking back. I think anyway. I think Joyce and Morris. And then I think Robert Downey stays at 6. No matter if Andy Ormond goes out to the wing or goes to the corner or whatever, Rob Downey's staying at 6. Because the damage he did against Dublin from Sean Brennan's puckouts was absolutely superb around the middle. Because every puckout Dublin were putting down the middle, Rob Downey was cleaning them out. So it is, I think, Pat Ryan has to stay with that winning formula, keep Rod Downey at 6 and leave it at that, no matter where Andy Ormond moves. Now, will Andy Ormond move? That's down to Liam Cahill. I genuinely don't know what the situation would be there. In terms of midfield, touch wood, there won't be a David Fitzgerald kind of situation. I think the midfield will stay the same. I think it will. I think Darragh Fitzgibbon maybe going to centre forward might scupper a few things there. But other than that, I think Willie Connors and Conor Stakelum stay in midfield. And Stakelum, he was a late change against Kilkenny, but he got 3 points for play the last day. I don't see Liam Cahill dropping him because he performed that well. Tim O'Mahony, I think, did excellent work around the middle for Cork, so I think he stays around the middle. Then you look at the full forward line matchups with the Tipperary full back line.
Yeah,
I think Owen Connolly. Yeah.
I was just going to say, like, even looking at the core forwards there as well, like that's, Tipperary have some job on their hands there.
What I was hearing during the week will be the kind of matchups most likely. Owen Connolly will go on Brian Hayes. I think that probably is a lot what people are thinking there. And then more so, I was thinking process of elimination. I think Mike Breen and Patrick Orban spot on there. I think they'll stay on each other because they're the most experienced guys in the respective lines for both counties. So I think those two will have a battle, obviously. And then you look at even the halfbacks, like it's a very, very tough one. I think Seamus mentioned this last night, a very interesting one. Ronan Maher on Alan Connolly and put Ronan Maher at fullback for Tipp. I don't know. What would you think about that?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. But like, to be fair, like Robert Doyle's done a great job in there, and like where does Robert Doyle though? Then I don't know. I don't think you play him at centre back though. We probably need to bring someone else. Yeah,
this is the thing. Do you put Robert Doyle? Who's sitting there? I'm looking there. Oh, Brian O'Mara. I think Brian O'Mara possibly on Dickie Dawson. I think.
Yeah.
That would probably be one there. Then I think it's a very, very tough one because we were talking about who's going to go on Shane Barrett. Because Shane Barrett, and James asked me a very good question last night. Who would actually have the pace to deal with Shane Barrett? And I truthfully said probably no one at this present moment in time. He's called the Blarney Bullet for a reason. He's absolutely lightning fast. So my question, like maybe people in the comments will know, who is Tipp's fastest defender? Because I think that could be the guy to go on Barrett. I think I can safely say I don't think that's Ronan Maher. I don't think Ronan Maher is their fastest defender. So then, could Robert Doyle go on Shane Barrett?
Yeah, like that could be an interesting one. And to be fair, there was a comment here from Matt as well saying, like, does Alan Tynan start as well, which is maybe an option for Tipperary as well. But yeah, no, like absolutely, like even putting Ronan Maher in there, on Alan, like Robert Doyle, like I think with Ronan Maher, it's that influence he brings as well around the half-back line, and even like kind of being the extra man in midfield, offering something a little bit kind of going forward. But at the same time, like you don't want to take the influence away from Ronan Maher, and Ronan Maher would have to be touch tight to Shane Barrett, like not give him an inch. Whereas if you put Robert Doyle on him, but see, like you do look at it there though, like especially looking at those Cork forwards, like it is a quite inexperienced, like other than Ronan Maher, you'd say maybe Mike Breen as well. Brian O'Mara has been around a while. It's quite inexperienced, that kind of defensive line for Tipperary, and like you're looking at it from a Cork perspective of players like Brian Hayes, Alan Connolly, Pat Horgan, who we haven't even mentioned yet. Like it could, like I could understand why people have said like Tipperary should just flood their own kind of 30-40 meter line with bodies, because Cork could do serious damage in that aspect.
That's it, yeah. Look, I think Jamie Whitey-Hoggy's had a brilliant season under the radar, but it has a very good season, over 70% track, which is very, very good. And he realises he does have better players around him as well, which is a statement to Hoggy as well, that like he is a very, very good player, but at the same time as well, he's a very, very good teammate. He proves to be as well, especially this season. I think him and Mike Breen is going to be an almighty battle, because we talk about Hoggy performing well. Mike Breen being one of the most experienced, along with Ronan Maher, obviously. Mike Breen has been very, very good for Tipperary, I think, a cornerback. And he's very, very versatile, as we all know, as well. So I think he'll stick to Hoggy like glue. So that should be a very interesting battle there. Like myself and Seamus had a discussion about Craig Morgan. Would he be the quickest defender, or would it be Robert Doyle? Like
I think it would be more for Tipperary, to be honest. Yeah, like I wouldn't be too sure on that now.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting one to find out in many ways. So yeah, it's oh man, it's very, very difficult to put Ronan Maher on the fight. I know who you mean, Liam. It's Declan Dalton there, but Ronan Maher and Declan Dalton.
Yeah, that is an interesting one as well. Playing at wing back though, yeah. I suppose, yeah.
I think the thing is, I think Brian O'Mara has not many people have the strength to deal with Decky, but I think Brian O'Mara is right up there, in my opinion. So, it's a very, very tough one to call. Would you rather take the Cork forward out of it for a sec? Would you rather run O'Mara at fullback or centre back, or would you rather him out in the wing?
Yeah. So you want him having his best game. Like he's their most experienced. For me, he's their most influential defender that they have. Obviously, playing in at centre back, and especially as well, he's a player who can step up on the big occasion. He can influence a game. He can be a kind of an extra man around the middle. It is an interesting one because he probably could do a man marking job on someone and take a Declan Dalton out of the game, for example. But that's just one player. Do you know what I mean? You've still then got Shane Barrett, like Jeremy Healy as well, who is kind of broke on the scene this year. Like I was very impressed with him versus Dublin. And it's mad. Like you lose a player like Seamus Harnedy, and you've just got another player who's just slots right in. And that's why it does remind me of an elite team, like the Limerick hurlers, like the Kilkenny hurlers, the Kerry footballers, the Tyrone footballers back in the 2000s, Dublin's team as well. To have these players who can come in and do a job. But yeah, I suppose, look, one thing I would say as well is there's definitely going to be a curveball thrown in here somewhere. And I look at it from Liam Cahill's point of view. Like, this is his third All-Ireland final as a manager, as a senior inter-county manager. Now, obviously, the two previous ones were with Waterford. They were against Limerick. A little bit of a slightly different scenario. Obviously the 2020 final, Limerick had won it 2 years previous, but they were sort of still in many ways an up-and-coming team. So, there could be a curveball somewhere there, and it might even be a player that we haven't even mentioned yet. And I'd be curious to know if you think there could be, we haven't even mentioned, what influence the bench could have here as well.
Yeah, and a lot of people that at the outside were looking at the benches, and a lot of people were thinking from a Tipperary point of view of Oisin O'Donoghue, who was a goal getter. And that is an indication that the Cork defenders have to be, in a way, conserving their energy until the very, very end of the game. Because this guy, you see his goal against Kilkenny, can poke a ball in a post box. He's absolutely outstanding. And Noel McGrath as well, the experience that he has coming off the bench as well. Alan Tynan, as the commentator mentioned there, if he's on the bench, that's another option for Tipperary to come on in adding kind of bulk around the middle. He's a former rugby player, so he is going to add a lot of in that instance as well. From Cork's point of view, you have a lot of experience at Robert Doyle and Alan Connolly. I think that would probably be the matchup, to be honest with you. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
I was thinking Shane was kind of changed my mind a teensy bit last night in saying Ronan Mark would go on him. But obviously, but then again, personally, I don't think Ronan Mara has the pace to deal with Shane Barrett. But you'd want Ronan Mara at centre back, wouldn't you? It's so difficult to call.
Yeah. But Alan Connolly as well. Especially I know he's had a quiet enough year, but he came bursting into life in the game versus Dublin, and he's got plenty of pace as well. And he tore. Let's not forget, Dublin had done quite well defensively up until that Cork game. We didn't concede any goals versus Limerick. All right, fair enough. Limerick aren't. They play a little bit different. They're not really focused on goals, really. They're not a team that goes for goals. We conceded a few goals against Kilkenny. But large and large, I think our defence has done quite well in terms of keeping out goal threats. Especially with Alan Connolly clicking into gear, who had a quiet year. Someone else was saying that Shane Barrett's been a little bit quiet at times this year as well. He clicks in, he could click into gear in this final. Do you know what I mean? So, there's no real right answer here, I think. And, that'll be down to Liam Cahill to really try and figure, on his management team to try and figure this out.
And that's why it's so vital to have kind of a tactical genius at the sideline for this. And you can't be too smart at the same time as a manager. Going to other sports, obviously we're both fans of soccer, and going to, and I'd say a lot of people in the comments coincidentally are fans of soccer as well. I remember Pep Guardiola playing without a defensive midfielder in the game against Chelsea. Do you remember that, Aaron?
Yeah.
And it was almost like Pep was almost trying to be too smart. And then it completely backfired. And you look at the goal that Chelsea scored off Kai Havertz, there was so much space around that kind of area. So you can't be too smart as a manager as well. You can't be kind of too dinky in this. Maybe you have to go back to basics on this. It's such a tough one to call though for Liam Cahill. I would personally like it's such a tough one for Ronan Maher. Like then again, if Pat Ryan would know that Ronan Maher is going to stay at centre back or full back, he's going to keep Shane Barrett there. Because for pace, he's going to outrun him. So it's a very, very difficult one to call. Oh wow, it's I think this is a sort of question that Tipperary fans would probably know more about it than us. It's a very, very difficult one to call. But Ronan Maher's experience, he obviously deserves his place in the team there. I don't think he's the right man to go on Shane Barrett though. Like who would you put him on though? Would you put him on Decky? Oh, it's maybe Decky Dawson being picked up by Maher isn't a bad idea. I put Brian O'Mara on Barrett. But then there's a centre back conundrum. It's a tough one to call. Yeah,
I don't know. I think Barrett would. I think with his pace, Brian O'Mara is quick as well. Though, to be fair, it is an interesting one. Matt was saying here, our game podcast are certain Mike Breen will be on Brian Hayes.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's like that. Yeah. I don't know. Look. To be fair, they probably know more than me now. To be fair, I don't know. Like,
from what like I was talking to one club manager during the week for a stats kind of in-depth look in terms of matchups for the Southern Star this week for the paper. Obviously, buy it in shops if you haven't already. We was out this morning, but he was saying that a definite one that he sees is Owen Connolly on Brian Hayes. That's his opinion. But if the Our Game podcast is saying different, I think genuinely Mike Breen and Patrick Orban is a very, very good matchup. Personally, experience on experience.
Yeah.
But it's again tough one to call.
Yeah, I think a big thing in a final like this as well, you don't want to be giving away frees or anything like that, because a player like Pat Hogan will stick them. Beast was saying here, do you reckon Tipp stick McCarthy on frees? That's an interesting one as well. In terms of Darren McCarthy, obviously missed a couple in the semi-final. Is obviously still such a young player. It is a difficult conundrum for Darren McCarthy as well, though, isn't it? Because it's like, I get what you were saying earlier. You were saying about, he needs to kind of watch himself and everything else. But to be fair, he obviously, he has a bit of aggression obviously about him, but I think that's what makes him such a good player as well at the same time. And you don't want to limit that. So it'll be about trying to find that balance, which will be difficult, to be fair. Just run through some other comments here. Jack says, my first message here, keep up the great work up Cork. Yeah, cheers very much, Jack. Appreciate the comment there. Sean says, Shane Barrett is the main man with pace, but Tipp have to be aware of Alan Connolly, who's also got gas and has scored a brace of goals, including a hat-trick against Tipp. And Sean also says, I think Cork got a lot of easy puck-outs against Dublin, highly due to Dublin being so open, but I think Tipp are more physical and will make it a lot harder. That's an interesting point as well. We haven't really mentioned the influence that Pat Collins can maybe have in the game. We've saw him previously, it feels like sometimes there's no in between with him. Maybe he can have unbelievable games in terms of puck outs, but sometimes I can remember games, where he struggled as well. So what kind of influence do you think he could have in this game?
I think he'd be the main kind of guy at the puck outs in terms of a Cork point of view. He'd finding players and things like that, and he has improved this year. There's no doubt about that, Patrick Collins, and he normally starts a lot of Cork attacks. Like at the semi-final in the first half against Dublin, 2-5 of Cork's total in the first half came from Pat Collins' puck-outs. That indicates that he has an eye for a pass. Even from a puck-out, he's going to eye, even from long distance, Brian Hayes, Hoggy, Connolly. he can oil like a straight die, Patrick Collins, this season. So, and he's been one of the standard goalkeepers as well, but Reece Shelley has been as well. And we haven't talked about him. He's been absolutely brilliant for Tipperary in terms of his long pokes. And coincidentally, Tipp scored 2-5 out of their own poke-outs against Kilkenny in the first half. So both sides seem to be very good at their own poke-outs. It's about interchanging in. It can't be just about the poke-outs. And that was it, simplified really in the second half. Cork got 3-8 from turnovers in the second half. They still worked hard, even though the game was more so done against Dublin. So, is that an indication that Cork are willing to change up when things are going wrong? And Tipp kind of stick with the same thing, relying on Reece Shelley poking the ball long or poking the ball short to one of his cornerbacks, whether that be Breen or whether that be Robert Doyle, and launching one? Yeah, it's a very, very interesting aspect in terms of that. But the two goalkeepers are going to play a massive part in the game at the weekend. You wouldn't normally say that going to All-Ireland finals in the past, but this is modern day hurling. So I think both goalkeepers will have a lot to say in terms of the All-Ireland final. And a lot of people actually, from what I've seen, are very split in terms of their early All-Star nominations on either picking Reece Shelley or Patrick Collins. This is almost like a decider, this final. So be very interesting to see.
Yeah. And I suppose moving on from that, like looking at the bench as well, we didn't get any bench players on there, but obviously the bench can make such a huge impact. And looking at it from a Cork perspective, I mean, some of the players you had coming on against Dublin, like Conor Lahan, we know Shane Kingston loves a bench cameo. You've got Jack O'Connor as well, who's a very explosive forward. Tommy O'Connell coming off the bench the last day as well. And then you're looking at Tipperary and you've got, Oisin O'Donoghue comes off the bench, gets a goal. You've got Alan Toynan coming off the bench. Noel McGrath, of course, as well, who's a big game player. So what kind of influence could the bench have? And to be fair, like looking at it there, they seem quite even in terms of players coming off the bench. Like they both have big players who can come on, to be fair. Big game players who've been there and done it, but also young players as well who can make an impact.
Yeah, exactly so. And you look at Tips and the players that can come on, it's a mixture of youth and experience. Like Noel McGrath could come on the pitch, Alan Toynan could come on the pitch, but also you have the exuberance in Oisin O'Donoghue, and that has to be watched from a Cork point of view, no doubt about it. You mentioned Jack O'Connor there. Like Jack O'Connor did very well after coming on against Dublin, got himself a point. But then again, if Hartney is fit, deep fit even for the bench, would Jack O'Connor be the guy to get dropped? I'm not necessarily agreeing with it, but like it's a very, very interesting conundrum. Like Luke Meade has been talked about not being in the panel either. Like it's going to be very interesting to see who's going to be on the Cork bench. Not just them two. Shane Kingston got 2 points off the bench against Dublin in the semi-final. Mm-hmm. Conor Lehan was absolutely superb after coming off the bench. It adds a bit of a cool head coming onto the pitch as well, and it's probably improved by time as well. Like ever since he's come, Tipp bench is very, very good. But like you look at some of the players that come on in terms of experience, like Lehan, Kingston, they want an All-Ireland. Like they haven't won an All-Ireland, obviously. Noel McGrath already has 3. And is there an argument to say, Aaron, that his hunger is kind of gone for that, in terms of getting the All-Ireland? Maybe I'm nitpicking a bit there, but like the Cork lads are hungry. They want to win the All-Ireland. They're chasing their first ever All-Ireland title, whereas Noel McGrath has 3 already. So who will be the most hungry coming off the bench there? Oisin O'Donoghue will be a guy definitely hungry. He hasn't won an All-Ireland yet, obviously, at senior level. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see.
I was speaking to someone on work today, and they made an interesting point about Shane O'Donnell in 2013, young player, burst on the scene and everything else. And could Oisin O'Donoghue be Tipperary's potential version of that, where maybe Liam Cahill goes, you know what, you showed a brilliant bit of skill, obviously putting that ball in the top corner in the semi-final. Let's throw you in. Let's put you in the deep end. Let's put you in for the big occasion. Now, whose place he would take is a very interesting question. And there have been a few people in here. A2 was saying here, do you even start McCarthy? Cork will be at him for the first minute. And that is an interesting point as well, because like don't get me wrong, he's obviously Darren McCarthy is a phenomenal hurler, but he is a young player. But and obviously what happened against Cork, the sending off the last day versus Kilkenny. Do you put an Oisin O'Donoghue in there, do you think?
Oh, that's a very, very interesting point. Or do you put Alan Tynan in instead of Darren McCarthy? Put Jake Morris in a corner.
Yeah.
It's would you put? Yeah, it's a very, very risky thing to do. To put, I know Shane O'Donnell worked a treat, and to an extent, Walter Walsh did against Galway in 2012 as well. But it's still a very, very risky move to do that. Do you do it? I'm not sure. Does Liam Cahill have the corners to do it? It's going to be a very interesting call if he does. I think the safest call, if you're thinking of taking Darren McCarthy out for the first few minutes, I think is to put Alan Tynan in a 10 and put James Morris in a corner.
There we go. Matt says here, I don't think no, McGrath's here only to take part. The passion he showed after the semi, he definitely wants more All-Ireland medals. There's also a large number of players who don't have them too. Yeah, it is an interesting point. Well, yeah, look, that's the matchups there then, and we'll see obviously what happens when the teams are named and everything else. And look, there'll definitely be a few curveballs in there, I'm sure. I've no doubts about that. In terms of a prediction, then, look, I know you're going to back Cork, of course you are. So I'll go first on this in terms of a prediction. So, and I even have an L score prediction here for us as well. So I'm going to go Cork 3-25, Tipperary 1-27. And we'll even get it up on the screen there as well as the prediction I'm going to go with. So I think goals are going to be the difference ultimately for Cork. Because look, we saw how brilliant you were against Dublin. I do worry a little bit about Tipperary defensively. Look, I know of a Tipperary jersey on. I know of relations from Tipp. In all honesty, I'm neutral. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, for me who wins the game. I just hope for a good game. I just hope it's not one-sided or anything of that nature. Either way, for either team, I hope it's competitive, goes to the death. I hope it's a final like last year that goes to extra time and end-to-end and even a replay. I'd love to see that as well. But I just think Cork, in terms of goals, I think that's going to be the difference. And I think... Yeah, what do you think?
I'm going to say you're saying Cork by 4. I'm actually going to say Cork by 3.
By 3.
So I'm trying to think of a score now. I genuinely think the goal count will be the same as yours. I have a feeling Cork will score 3-26. I don't know what it is about them. So for that reason, I'm going to go Cork 3-26, Tipperary 1-29.
There we go.
So yeah, it's a very rogue show anyway, but I think it'll be a 3-point game. It's going to be very, very tight. I think it won't be as comprehensive as it was down in the park. Cork will be tested right till the very end. It'll be very, very... Tipp will be an absolutely worthy opponent. They'll be absolutely... And I wouldn't be shocked to decide if Tipp got over the line. The Tipp are a very good team. They're here on merit. They've done brilliant so far. I think this is Cork's time, though. I think this is our time to go on and win the All-Ireland. And I've said this, Aaron. I've said it on your channel. I've said it since December. I said Cork will win the All-Ireland, and I'm not changing my mind now.
Yeah. Like even looking at recent meetings between Cork and Tipperary as well, though. Like, I mean, you beat them very comfortably, 4-27-24. Like this year in the championship, you beat them comfortably in the league. You go back to 2024, you beat them very comfortably that day as well, like scoring 430. The year before was a draw. Beat them in 2022 as well. Like, look, I know it's an All-Ireland final, and Tipperary are a very, very good side. Look, I don't think this will be anything like that, but like you have to factor in the most recent meetings as well. Like, it has been very comfortable for Cork. Look, I know there are extenuating circumstances. The red card to Darren McCarthy maybe would have been a league final, like, maybe last year, obviously Tipperary, where we're kind of getting beat by everyone, really. So, like, how much of could those games affect maybe both teams? Like, maybe Cork could come in overconfident, maybe Tipperary could come in deflated, or maybe, want to avenge those defeats. It's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting one, all right. And yes, I do understand that Cork scored a lot of goals in the last few games, but there was a few asterisks next to all these. Number one, in 2022, Tipperary just were miles off under Cullen Bonner. 2023 was obviously a draw. 2024, Tipperary, I don't know, like it looked like Tipperary were just gone over that day. They just didn't have a plan, and it's very, very poor from the Tipperary point of view. And this year, the Darragh McCarthy red card. Genuinely, that was the deciding of the game before the game even started. That was the least ideal thing to happen to Tipperary as soon as the game started. But I'm sure, he got a red card against Kilkenny, but Darragh has to learn. He's a really exciting hurler, and he's 19 years of age. He's raw. He's a very, very talented player, an absolutely outstanding player in terms of stick work, but he has to control himself. He cannot let his emotions get the better of him. I think this would be the worst thing to happen from a neutral point of view if a red card happens within 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah, if you couldn't, surely, yeah. I mean, unless it was something really bad, of course, you know.
Yeah, it's a very, very difficult. Honestly, I know when you said he does add that aggression, and that could be a positive thing for Tipperary. But at the same time, would it be more positive for Tipperary to have Darragh McCarthy still on the pitch rather than go off on one?
Yeah, it's weird though. Like, red cards recently has been helping teams. I mean, we saw Dublin with 14 versus Limerick. We saw Tipperary with 14 versus Kilkenny. Like, maybe they should just stick it to someone and then just play the game with 14 men. I'm only joking now. I don't think that's actually the right way to approach it now. But it's just been mad how it has worked. Sean says I predict Cork to win, given how they've grown in the last 2 years. Paul says I'm surprised. Such a little talk of Ormond. He's been brilliant. 2 or 3 man of the match awards. Yeah, he's been brilliant as well, and it probably shows how much great players there are on the pitch that we haven't even really mentioned. Andy Ormond, they have to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. The 2 goals against Clare, he burst onto the scene in those games. But I think the reason that we aren't really talking about Andy Ormond is because he hasn't performed in Croke Park yet. As harsh as it sounds, like against Kilkenny, he was kind of taken out of the game. It was mostly John McGrath getting the goals. Darragh McCarthy, when he was on the pitch, Jason Ford was absolutely superb that day. It was those players that stood up. And if Andy Ormond does stand up in this game, it would be obviously not a shock. But I would say it would be his first ever great display in Croke Park. If he does show up this weekend. So...
Yeah. And to be fair, look, he's obviously a young player as well, so like it will come. To be fair, in the second half, I thought he was good versus Kilkenny. He kind of got more into the game and kind of stood up. I thought when McCarthy was sent off. Peter says Hoggy for man of the match. Dublin's great. Says I just want the replay. Sean says I think it could go to extra time. Go Cork is what that user says. Matt says roll on, a banger of a match, some buzz up the Premier. Best of luck to Cork too. And Michael says, will this go to a replay if it is a draw? I believe it will, but only after extra time. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it will. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and Dublin is great says this as well. Yeah, so man of the match prediction. What would you be thinking there?
What's a tough one? I'm going to go Tim O'Mahony. I think he might have a stormer of game for Cork.
Yeah, hard one really, isn't it? Like with so many players. I'm going to go with Shane Barrett, actually. All the talk about Shane Barrett, and I think he might... I know, as we've said, he's been a little bit quiet this year, but I think all Ireland finals, we see players step up, you know. We saw countless amounts of times. I remember Gerard Hegarty, a lot of the time, having quiet enough years, getting to All Ireland final, he'd turn up and he put in an absolute stormer of a performance. So I have a funny feeling we'll see something similar with Shane Barrett. A2 says ultimately I think Tipp can afford to lose. Cork absolutely can't. If they lose another final, when will they ever get over the line? Yeah, like one thing we haven't mentioned maybe one thing to finish up on is there is a huge amount of pressure on Cork. There's no doubt about that. And as we've said, we've mentioned previously about, I know obviously it's one fan, and the for people who haven't seen, there was a Cork fan who got a tattoo, basically saying Cork All Ireland Hurling Champions 2025, which is insane, like considering the game obviously hasn't happened, and obviously look, that's one fan. You get them in every fan base. There's no doubt about that. But could all that kind of chat get to Cork? Do you think? Like, I don't think it will personally, if because of the fact that we've saw them deal with pressure really well. But what do you think?
Personally, I don't think so, because I think the Cork players, even on the pitch and at some games in a club level that I've seen, like obviously I'm still part of the Sarsfields backward team, and even I chatted to Jack O'Connor actually saying congratulations on the win over Dublin, and he seemed to be absolutely excellent mood and seemed very, very relaxed, even before all of the final was going to happen the weekend after. I know Jack O'Connor's only a bench player, but like that's kind of the same for the whole panel. Like I've seen Brian Hayes and Damien Hallan were at that league final between Stars and Bars as well, and like all of them kind of seem very, very relaxed. They seem kind of in their element as well, in terms of that. So yeah, it should be very, very interesting to see how they do react in terms of the players, or in terms of the guy that got the tattoo. I mean, what more do I have to say about that? It's mind-boggling. It really is. I mean, I don't know why you'd actually do that. To be honest, it's I just don't know words for that. I mean, not all. I will re-emphasize, not all Cork fans are like that, and it's just like, if Cork are going to lose the All-Ireland final, which is a possibility on Sunday, then what would that lad be feeling?
Yeah, he'll have to just go out. He'll just have to wear a long sleeve, jumpers and everything else, I think, for the rest of the year. He'll certainly be hoping it won't be sunny weather, but look, we'll see what happens when it comes to Sunday. Michael says, I think Ford could be man of the match if Tipp win. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good show. Actually, I think maybe if Tipperary were to win, I think someone like a John McGrath or something like that. I got Matt's point earlier talking about Noel McGrath as well. Now, obviously, you wouldn't imagine he'd start, but if he did start, he could be a player who could really kind of turn up for the big occasion, as he so often has done in the past. Dublin is great, says I'd love to see Cork win for Patrick Horgan. Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I think for a player who's given so much to the sport, as much as Patrick Horgan has, I think it would be criminal for him not to win an All-Ireland. And look, it'll be interesting to see if he wins one. Does he then step away, or does he say, I want to win a few more? Because I do genuinely believe, and I've said it previously, I think if Cork do get over the line this Sunday, people talked about the blue wave in Dublin, and I see similarities with Cork and hurling in that aspect. Like, I think this could be, look, there's other counties there without question, but I think Cork could, not straight away, winning back-to-back will be tough, but I think we could look at a real dominance period for Cork once they do get over the line, if it is this year.
Yeah, exactly. Like, once you get kind of one, then you could go on to the next one. Like, I think Seamus made a very good point on this. Like, once you kind of win one initially, you might not win the next year, but then the dominance will start to come after that. Like, it's just about getting over the line the first time, and then the confidence will breed after that. Look, I do agree with the comments there. There is more pressure on Cork. I think the players and the management know that as well. Like Pat Ryan did mention during the week that like the only people with All-Ireland medals is the backroom team for Cork, including himself. And none of the players have an All-Ireland medal. Like, he's a player of the Tipperary team that has 3 All-Ireland medals in Noel McGrath. So Cork need to win one sooner rather than later, just to set the pressure off. But it is going to be an enthralling game, and may the best team win.
Absolutely, yeah. Peter says more likely Hoggy stays if he gets his medal. And then Sean says, this might sound harsh, but I feel it could be now or never for Cork, because I question if they'll get a better opportunity, even though they do have a young team with good underage coming through. Well, yeah, look, that wraps it up there. So my prediction is Cork 325, Tipperary 127, and Matthews is Cork 326, Tipperary 129. So similar enough score predictions there. Do let us know yours in the comments down below. Let us know who you think will be man of the match as well. Who will be the standout players? Will there be any curveballs thrown in there, do you think, by either of the management teams? And hit the like button and subscribe if you could on the channel. Make sure to check out Matthew's podcast as well over on the Gaelic Statsman. And we'll speak to you all in the next one.